I would say that one of the most challenging things for an empath to do is to take all of its energy back on itself. All of its energy, all of its awareness, all of its attention. Because due to its highly empathic nature, it has been conditioned to tune all of its energy and awareness into everyone else in the environment, ultimately to, you know, gain a sense of safety. That's really what it comes down to. And it's just so interesting to be sitting here on this journey now and healing from codependency, healing from all that stuff, bringing all of my energy and my awareness, my attention back to myself, and just be noticing details and stuff. It's very challenging for empaths to set boundaries because they learned boundarylessness growing up, right? And so that really changes the dynamic. Literally, boundaries changes the dynamics of everything because what they learned was, I don't know where I begin and I don't know where I end, and so therefore, I'm just I'm enmeshed with everyone else, right? And so taking a step back from that, for in my own experience, for an empath to actually learn that it has its own life and it doesn't have to be readily available for everyone 24/7. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's a new kind of, I guess, territory to be aware in, a new space of awareness, really. Empaths are very aware, but they're more so aware outside of themselves. So the really cool thing about the evolution of that, and I guess you could say like, transmutating that experience of life, is turning that around and bringing all of that awareness back to the self, right? Because what empaths have been conditioned into doing is rescuing, right? They're so highly attuned to the people in their environment that what they've been conditioned into doing is rescuing everyone. They have a very hard time with certain emotions. I guess you could say, like, difficult emotions. I don't know if that's the right word to use for this, but there are certain emotions that they have a hard time dealing with. And if somebody is suffering, it's actually hard for it's very challenging for them to see people suffering. So therefore, their immediate response is to rescue. But then, of course, when you learn boundaries, you learn that you can just allow people to feel what it is that they're feeling, right? Now, the interesting thing here is that the whole thing of boundaries, right? It goes hand in hand because when you place boundaries, you recognize that you're not enmeshed with everyone else, that their shit, you recognize that their shit is not your shit. When you don't have boundaries, you confuse their shit for your shit. However, when you have boundaries, you recognize where you begin, where you end, where everyone else begins and ends, and it changes the dynamics of how you experience things. But I would argue that the key insight here is all of that awareness that you have tuned outside of yourself, all of that energy, right? When you bring that on yourself, like there's an incredible amount of power here, and this needs to be understood. Empaths, people that are codependent, they spend a lot of time and energy putting other people into check, I guess. More so rescuing, right? A lot of time and energy. Like an absurd amount of time and energy. They lose sleep over it. If they were to take all of that energy and awareness back on themselves, they would just be amazed at what they can do with it. And this is something that I've been noticing in my own life, especially, is that I grew up as a codependent, and I felt like it was my responsibility to rescue people from their own shit, from their own suffering, from their own problems and everything. And it never was, of course, but I learned that. Um, and what's interesting about this is that you build a lifestyle around that, and you get very familiar with that. And so then when you place boundaries and you're not making yourself available for everyone else 24/7, life actually feels weird because you're like, wait a second, I was raised this way to do that. I'm not available for people 24/7 anymore. What do I do now? I can't rescue. My sense of self isn't being, or this part of me, this sense of self that's somewhat of a part of me that's still somewhat there, isn't being valid anymore. It's not being validated anymore. And it can be very challenging to sit with that. And what I'm doing is just recognizing that for a long time now, I have sat with plenty regret that the work that I'm doing now, I didn't do sooner. That a decade ago, I could have started what I'm doing now. If I had just recognized that I have my own life to create, right? And of course, maybe this stuff is a given, but like, truly, there are absolutely incredible things that happen when you take all of your energy and all your awareness back on yourself. You recognize your responsibility to create for yourself and your life, and your responsibility for everyone else. You really don't have a huge responsibility for everyone else. How you treat people is what you're responsible for. You're not responsible for being available for everyone else 24/7. You're not responsible for rescuing other people. You're not responsible for a far majority of the shit that you think you are responsible for. And deconditioning, unlearning that structure right there, that's the key.